Ashley, in your piece, you talk about the president's new or recharged war on the media. Why do you think these attacks are happening in such full force right now? What are they really about?
Well, part of it is the president's agitation at all of the incoming assaults he feels he's facing and challenges, which are very real. But if you look at all of his targets, they're disparate, but they feel familiar. The media, his Justice Department, big tech, the Democrats. We wrote about this one unifying theme, and that idea is no one can be trusted. My opponents are peddling fake facts, and the only reliable narrator and arbiter of the truth is me, President Donald Trump.
Wow. Well, you note that many of his claims, not just last night at his rally, but across Twitter over the last few days, they have no evidence. They're straight up lies. Does that matter at this point with his supporters?
That's a great question. Among his supporters so far, that does not seem to matter a tremendous amount. They're willing to accept, or they're largely willing to accept what he says as truth. And part of this, in talking to some experts, is the president is sort of floating out trial balloons and setting the stage. So to get someone to believe something that's not true, you can't just announce something. You sort of have to lead them there. You start going after Google. You start going after big tech. So if and when the president does actually roll out an initiative, at least his base and his supporters have been primed little by little to believe that. I will say there's a countervailing opinion that this could backfire, in that while his base likes this, sort of people who are more rooted in a reality-based community, for lack of a better word, it increasingly makes him seem unhinged and can backfire on him.
All right, I want to bring my panel in to weigh in on all of this. Chris Wilson is CEO of WPA Intelligence and a GOP pollster. My friend Midwood Charles, an attorney for the law firm Midwood Charles and Associates. And Liz Plank is here, the executive producer of Divided States of Women. Welcome to you all. All right, Chris, last night the president really held nothing back. He was Donald Trump, true rally style. What was your reaction to what we heard? Because I made the point earlier, all he needed to do is get on the stage and say Brett Kavanaugh kicks off Tuesday.
Well, you're right, that, and talking about the economy, talking about the trade deals where he has had success. So I think, but I don't think Ashley and Hans are wrong. I mean, there is a lot of kind of focus grouping comments, is going in and seeing what the crowd reacts to. And the one thing I want to point out about these rallies is I've now observed in Senate races where I'm involved in, where he goes into North Dakota, where he goes into Montana, where he goes into Missouri, and now he goes into Indiana, and he leaves, and these races change almost overnight. And you go from a situation where it's either a dead heat or Republicans are down, whereas now you have Montana, where Matt Rosendale is actually up over John Tester after Trump leaves the state. So he has a remarkable ability of that's something I have not seen, that I didn't see it under President Bush, President Obama, President Clinton, to go in and change an election almost overnight by having a rally like this. And you can't discount that.
And why is it that it works? Simply his magnetism? Because if you look at what he delivers, right, if you talk about the economy, real worker pay went down in 2017 when executive pay went up 17%.
Well, look, there are a lot of numbers that we could throw out about the economy. The bottom line is right now people feel good about the economy. There are more jobs available than there are people who are seeking jobs. You have unemployment amongst African Americans, amongst Hispanics, amongst everyone overall at its lowest figure in years. And so all of that leads to a situation where, and there's an aspect about the tariffs and the ability for them to go in and announce what's going on with basically he's able to declare victory on the trade war with Mexico.
He can't create it. Hold on a second. What he announced earlier this week was a partial announcement. Again, the president is an extraordinary salesman, but whether we know we're going to see real improvement here, we don't know the answer to that. We know he's good at selling it.
You're right, we don't, but we do know that the stock market has been on an extended rally.
The stock market and the economy are two very different things.
It's a matter of getting out and spending money, Stephanie. The American people right now are spending money. They're getting out of they're going to the mall, they're making purchases, and all in all, people just feel good about what's going on. I think that's why, as I pointed out again, the face of the Senate is going to be changed come 2018 because of his ability to go in and rally the base. And 2018, whatever you want to say about it, is going to be a base election. Your comments earlier and the comments about panelists so far have been, well, who does this have an impact with? And if it impacts that 2016 Trump voter, the voter who gave him Montana and Missouri and West Virginia by wide margins, and they vote in the Senate races, you're going to have a Republican Senate with 55, 56 members. And they're going to have to give him credit for that because he is the one who is having the impact of turning these voters out.
You're right. People are spending more money because inflation is growing at a higher pace than wages are. Midwin, President also couldn't help but go after Jeff Sessions, saying in an interview that Sessions is safe at least until the midterms. What exactly does that mean?
Well, I think what it means is he's obviously thinking about getting rid of Sessions. But again, I think we all need to step back from that and recognize and acknowledge the fact that this is not normal. The president of the United States should not be interfering. And obviously, this is a result of the Russia investigation. He doesn't like the Russia investigation. We all know that, right? We all know that. This isn't new. And the idea that he would constantly try to criticize Sessions for recusing himself, criticize Sessions for not perhaps acting forcibly against the FBI is indicative of the fact that he is interfering in this investigation. And so the idea that he would even talk about getting rid of Sessions in this sort of reality show style, which we have seen from this president from day one, is am I going to do it? Am I not going to do it? Stay tuned to the next episode. That's exactly how he's been running this presidency, and it's a shame.
Liz, President Obama was skilled at getting elected. President Obama was not skilled at getting other Democrats elected. To Chris's point, Trump goes to these states, does his thing, and it definitely helps these candidates. In a new ABC poll out this morning, his disapproval rating has hit 60%, and his approval rating among Republicans has dipped to 78%. Now, 78% is still a really big number, but it's lower than it's been. Is there a point when this starts to be a concern for Republicans?
Right, and even to Donald Trump, I mean, popularity is definitely one of his top priorities, and we can sort of sense in what he was saying last night, especially that he's being more and more concerned with Democrats and their popularity, because in a lot of ways, Democrats have been running smart populist campaigns and have been winning them, and he ran a very weak populist campaign because now it's starting to show that he doesn't have anything to back those promises up with.
But he won.
He did win, but he didn't talk about the tax bill that he passed that gave $1.5 trillion to corporate elites and to the 1%. He didn't talk about the fact that he is now giving a pay cut, basically, to federal workers because he's not giving them an increase that goes with inflation. And so that money that he's giving to the corporate elites, he's not talking about it, but it's going to be coming from somewhere, and it's going to be coming from the pockets of the American people, a lot of them who supported him in the election, in 2016, but who might not do it in 2020 and might not do it with candidates in the midterm either.
We're going to talk about that, Chris. What do you think of that? The president canceling pay raises for federal workers. Those are the American people. What's your take on that?
I think most Americans do not work in jobs where they have automatic pay raises that are indexed for inflation. And I think most Americans, if they took a look at the federal government, would be surprised at how much money is wasted. And so I don't think there is a look.
Do you think federal government workers are just like living the high life?
Do I think they're living the high life? It is a very different question from where I think there are automatic raises that should be required at certain points in time. And I don't want to call any specific department out, but I do think there is a lot of, most Americans believe there are areas of government that are subject to cut. Most Americans do not believe that there are too much bureaucracy. Most Americans believe that there are probably too many workers at the IRS. And so you can take specific examples of this and point out that, well, you know what, maybe that raises should not just be indexed, and maybe raises should be earned.
Okay, well, Ashley, do you think there'll be pushback? Because federal worker pay and benefits, they've been cut by more than $200 billion since 2011. That's just sort of been the way we've been headed. Are you going to see anyone fight the president on this?
I think you'll see pushback. I think Chris is right that out in the country there is a sense that the federal bureaucracy is bloated, but especially from members of Congress who represent these federal workers and from the government workers themselves. There's an argument we've already seen them start to make that this is the president sort of showing contempt for government workers, for members of his own bureaucracy, and that it is petty and vindictive in their view. And this is not a traditional Republican who, is running on a general platform of fiscal responsibility. There are a number of tax breaks he's given and grown the federal deficit that way. And so this seems like a particularly putative example.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.